cried the terrified attorney. The hounds were then called off by the squire, and, nerved by fright, Potts sprang upon the wall, and tumbled over it upon the other side, alighting upon the head of his respected and singular good client, whom he brought to the ground. Meanwhile, all those unlucky persons who had succeeded in scaling the wall were attacked by the hounds, and, unable to stand against them, were chased round the garden, to the infinite amusement of the squire. Frightened to death, and unable otherwise to escape, for the gate allowed them no means of exit, the poor wretches fled towards the terrace overlooking Pendle Water, and, leaping into the stream, gained the opposite bank. There they were safe, for the hounds were not allowed to follow them further. In this way the garden was completely cleared of the enemy, and Nicholas and Richard were left masters of the field. Leaning out of the window, Mistress Nutter laughingly congratulated them on their success, and as no further disposition was manifested on the part of Nowell and such of his troop that remained to renew the attack, the contest, for the present at least, was supposed to be at an end. By this time, also, intimation had been conveyed by the deserters from Nowell's troop, who, it will be remembered, had made their way to the back of the premises, that they were anxious to offer their services to Mistress Nutter, and as soon as this was told her, she ordered them to be admitted, and descended to give them welcome. Thus things wore a promising aspect for the besieged, while the assailing party were proportionately disheartened. Long ere this, Baldwyn and old Mitton had desisted from their attempts to break open the gate, and indeed rejoiced that such a barrier was interposed between them and the hounds, whose furious onslaughts they witnessed. A bolt was launched against these four-footed guardians of the premises by the bearer of the crossbow, but the man proved but an indifferent marksman, for, instead of hitting the hound, he disabled one of his companions who was battling with him. Finding things in this state, and that neither Nowell nor Potts returned to their charge, while their followers were withdrawn from before the gate, Nicholas thought he might fairly infer that a victory had been obtained. But, like a prudent leader, he did not choose to expose himself till the enemy had absolutely yielded, and he therefore signed to Blackadder and his men to come forth from the hall. The order was obeyed, not only by them, but by the seceders from the hostile troop, and some 30 men issued from the principal door, and, raising themselves upon the lawn, set up a deafening and triumphant shout, very different from that raised by the same individuals when under the command of Nowell. At the same moment, Mistress Nutter and Alizon appeared at the door, and at the sight of them the shouting was renewed. The unexpected turn in affairs had not been without its effect upon Richard and Alizon, and tended to revive the spirits of both. The immediate danger by which they were threatened had vanished, and time was given for the consideration of new plans. Richard had been firmly resolved to take no further part in the affray than should be required for the protection of Alizon, and consequently it was no little satisfaction to him to reflect that the victory had been accomplished without him, and by means which could not afterwards be questioned. Meanwhile, Mistress Nutter had joined Nicholas, and the gates being unbarred by Blackadder, they passed through them. At a little distance stood Roger Nowell, now altogether abandoned, except by his own immediate followers, with Baldwyn and old Mitton. Poor Potts was lying on the ground, piteously bemoaning the lacerations his skin had undergone. "Well, you have got the worst of it, Master Nowell," said Nicholas, as he and Mistress Nutter approached the discomfited magistrate, "and must own yourself fairly defeated." "Defeated as I am, I would rather be in my place than in yours, sir," retorted Nowell, sourly. "You have had a wholesome lesson read you, Master Nowell," said Mistress Nutter; "but I do not come hither to taunt you. I am quite satisfied with the victory I have obtained, and am anxious to put an end to the misunderstanding between us." "I have no misunderstanding with you, madam," replied Nowell. "I do not quarrel with persons like you. But be assured, though you may escape now, a day of reckoning will come." "Your chief cause of grievance against me, I am aware," replied Mistress Nutter, calmly, "is that I have beaten you in the matter of the land. Now I have a proposal to make to you respecting it." "I cannot listen to it," rejoined Nowell, sternly. "I can have no dealings with a witch." At this moment his cloak was plucked behind by Potts, who looked at him as much as to say, "Do not exasperate her. Hear what she has got to offer." "I shall be happy to act as a mediator between you, if possible," observed Nicholas; "but in that case I must request you, Master Nowell, to abstain from any offensive language." "What is it you have to propose to me, then, madam?" demanded the magistrate, gruffly. "Come with me into the house, and you shall hear," replied Mistress Nutter. Nowell was about to refuse peremptorily, when his cloak was again plucked by Potts, who whispered him to go. "This is not a snare laid to entrap me, madam," he said, regarding the lady suspiciously. "I will answer for her good faith," interposed Nicholas. Nowell still hesitated, but the counsel of his legal adviser was enforced by a heavy shower of rain, which just then began to descend upon them. "You can take shelter beneath my roof," said Mistress Nutter, "and before the shower is over we can settle the matter." "And my wounds can be dressed at the same time," said Potts, with a groan, "for they pain me sorely." "Blackadder has a sovereign balsam, which, with a patch or two of diachylon, will make all right," replied Nicholas, unable to repress a laugh. "Here, lift him up between you," he added to the grooms, "and convey him into the house." The orders were obeyed, and Mistress Nutter led the way through the now wide opened gates. Her slow and majestic march was by no means accelerated by the drenching shower. What Roger Nowell's sensations were at following her in such a way, after his previous threats and boastings, may be easily conceived. CHAPTER X.